In 1910, the women chainmakers of Cradley Heath formed a trade union and won the first minimum wage agreement after a striking battle that lasted for 10 weeks. This increased the wages of the poorest workers by almost 150%. On 7th June 1968, 850 women machinists working at the Ford factory in Dagenham went on a strike for equal pay after discovering that they were being paid 15% less than men for doing the same amount of work. The demands of these women paved the way for the enactment of the equal pay legislation in 1970. 50 years and innumerable struggles later, on 18 September 2020, the world celebrated its first International Equal Pay Day. But let us ask ourselves, is the pay truly equal? Are women actually getting what they deserve? Have we actually defeated the gender pay gap?
I'm working by 7 an hour or so.
So why did we study pay gap? The whole idea behind studying the pay gap was to understand the inequality behind it. We realized that the pay gap is way more prominent and present in society than what we think, and that's because women work all around us, right? So they work at homes predominantly, they work at offices and at schools, and those are just to name a few. So, why not tell their story? That was our main objective. Apart from that, what our whole motive was, it shouldn't just be to an institute with a vast majority of girls, but it's to a wider audience that almost induces a sense of self reflection and makes you think about it more. So, it's just to generate an idea in your mind so that it helps you speak up about it.
We expected to deal with numbers, statistics, and a few interviews, but as we progressed, the impact and enormity of the issue bothered us. What we saw was just a part of all the discrimination and disparity faced by thousands of people from ages.
Started this project with brainstorming within the group and discussed various aspects of these problems and documented it. These problems would then be the focus of our study.
The next step is research. We collected statistics and a bunch of articles to know and to understand what it means and its impact in the present day.
We found statistical data about wages in different countries, industries, and economic classes. To have a better grasp on it, we made concept maps. A concept map is a visual organization which shows the relation among the concept and its ideas.
Married and middle-aged women are most affected by it, even though the female counterparts had equal or more educational qualifications and assumed a more responsible role. The male counterparts were more favored for roles of power. There is a clear evidence of it in different industries, and there is a visible impact of beauty standards in workplaces. The causes of these issues are rooted in gender discrimination, stereotypes, and orthodoxy.
Now that we had substantial data, we started our groundwork by talking to people and reaching the grassroots of the issue. At this point in our project, discrimination and its effects were profoundly visible.
Gender stereotypes are social constructs that form an integral part of workplace harassment and discrimination. These stereotypes are detrimental when they limit a person's capacity to develop their ability, pursue their career, and make choices about their life.
Primary role of a woman is not seen out there as a professional, whereas the primary role of the man is seen as out there and as a professional or as the earning member of the family. And this choice is not given to the woman or the man, it's just expected by society. Even if a man, for example, wants to stay at home, he has no choice just like a woman does not have choice if she wants to pursue a career and not her.
Gender stereotypes compounded or intersecting with stereotypes and have disproportionate and negative impact on certain groups of people, such as minorities or people belonging to indigenous group, people with disabilities, people with low castes and migrants, and also people of color.
Gender stereotypes are very deeply rooted and they require a lot of awareness and unlearning. We see them everywhere around us and we don't even notice that they are the stereotypes that we have been accepting all along. They are seen in the most basic things like kids' toys.
So, women experience large amounts of stress formally and informally in their workforce due to pregnancies. And pregnant women are often perceived to be a liability and are stereotyped and typecasted into the whole perception that they're lazy, distracted, incompetent, or even less driven.
And similarly, when women work in their own farms in the rural areas or on their own lands, which are family lands, they don't get paid for what they do. Whereas the agriculture work is primarily done by women. But if you think of a farmer, you always think of a male figure. So there is a lot of invisibilization of the work that women do. And that is one of the reasons why she is not paid. And that is one of the reasons why there is no question of equal pay.
વિદ્યા વિવાહ પછી તમે પ્રેગ્નન્ટ થયા ત્યારે તરત જ છોડી દીધી હતી? ના ના મને એવું હતું કે પેલું શું કે કદાચ મેનેજ થઈ જાય કોઈ મેળ સારી મળી જાય ને તો પછી હું વિદ્યા વિહાને શું કહેવાય એમની પાસે મૂકી અને આઈ વિલ મેનેજ એટલે કરી શકું તો ટ્રાય કરીશ એવું એટલે મેટર્નિટી લીવ 3 મહિનાની મળી વિદ્યા વિહા બોર્ન થયા પછી 90 ડેઝની પણ પછી હું જોઈન બી કર્યું એક દિવસ 2 દિવસ ગઈ પણ પછી વિદ્યા વિહા જ્યારે ફોન કરું રડતા હોય કે કશું હોય I feel like I have to be there.
For new mothers but not new fathers, staying with the same employer is associated with lower risks of downward occupational mobility but also lower chances of progression.
Strict laws and vigilance should be paid with both paid and secure maternity and paternity leave.
Household crops, looking after children and elder is naturally considered as a woman's duty, and their male counterparts are less likely to compel and help or take breaks. Mothers who take break completely are 3 times more likely to return to a lower paid or low responsibility roles as compared to those who don't take a break.
When we started reaching out to people, we realized that the problem was much deeper than it was visible to our eyes. It wasn't just about the statistics or the data. Women-oriented professions were always paid less than male-dominated professions. The biggest example of this is teaching. It is because of the reason that since ages our society has accepted it as a norm that the worth of a woman's work is less than that of man.
Across all states, both in rural and in urban areas, there are fewer women in the workforce compared to men. Meghalaya is the only state where 50% of the female population is at work.
તમને મેક્સમાં ફિમેલ કોલિગ્સ કેટલા હતા અને મેલ કોલિગ્સ કેટલા હતા? એ પણ 1090 યા અને તમે સર્વિસમાં ગર્લ્સ હતી અમે 3-4 અને એકાદ બે સેલ્સમાં છે ધેટ્સ ઇટ. તમે જે એજમાં આટલું જોબ સ્ટાર્ટ કરી એ એજમાં તમારા સર્કલમાં બીજા કેટલા લોકો આટલું જોબ કરતા હતા એક દિન?
The current global labor force participation rate from women is close to 49%. For men, it is 75%. That is a difference of 26% with same reason facing a gap of more than 15% points.
Beauty can affect women both positively and negatively, as it can give women a higher chance at obtaining jobs, but can sometimes make them perceived as less serious. Beauty also plays a role in how much male employees earn. Attractive men earn 5% more than less attractive men.
Do you have any such experiences where beautiful people
are preferred in the industry and sometimes others get a setback or something like that.
Definitely, definitely. In this world, beauty, I would not say the beauty alone, but the way you present yourself, your personality is the main thing, That's where, people are attracted, bosses are attracted, colleagues are attracted, and that's how you get better preferences.
While women who are considered beautiful perceived as dim-witted, the opposite is true for men. This is usually an effect created by cartoons and other media on young children and society at large, where men are seen as heroes. The traits such as big eyes, heart-shaped faces, and fit bodies not only make them physically attractive but also create an image of positive personality and good work ethic, which can be reflected in a work setting.
Women are less likely to get promoted at high positions because organizations and people with higher authority often consider them to be a liability. They often assume that women would eventually want to get married, have children, and work for even lesser hours. Work trips away from family, relocation for spouses' work, and power bias are the main factors. Hence, promotions and level ups become a distant reality.
Have you ever had any promotions?
Yes, I've had a couple of them, but after a big struggle. Again, so when a colleague of mine got promoted, he was given 10 percentage more than what I was being provided. With the same amount of experience that we both had, I did ask my higher officials, like, why?
Yeah.
But the reasons that they gave were kind of lame to me, but I had no other go because it was just during the time when this pandemic started. So
Yeah.
having a job itself was a big deal.
Regarding to this, on what basis is promotion in your company? Is there any difference between men and women or something?
Of course, there is not. And promotion, as I said before,
Hmm?
your hard work or talent is always recognized in the IGO.
Oh,
It is not that we have to, specifically look and pick up such people, but automatically they shine. You have that nature in you. You are persistent. You are hardworking.
hmm.
You are smart or intelligent to cope up with your other colleagues. Of course, you are recognized.
So women engage in economic activities around homes all the time, but they're barely paid or even recognized for the same work. So that's the double standard that exists. When a man does it, he becomes a superhero. But when a woman does it, she's just doing her duty. So as long as those gender perpetuated stereotypes exist in society and are imbibed in the minds of young girls, you cannot bring forward a change. Multiple studies have shown that women in workforce do about 2.5 full-time jobs between their homes and their professional life. So that is where the difference occurs. Why do men get paid for doing the same level of work or even lesser at times when women aren't even recognized for it? That's something to think about.
So, because what happens is if there are flexible hours and there are provisions for women, then the colleagues start saying, "Oh, for her it is so nice. She's not working as hard as I am working. She can go home at 5 o'clock. She can go home at 3 o'clock. I have to slog it out till 7 o'clock, and that's why I don't want women colleagues in my team, etc."
Since ages, gender roles have been divided in a way that assign a man a role of a provider and a woman a role of the nurturer or the caretaker. But we are increasingly looking at women stepping up as the provider, voluntarily or due to circumstances. This has never, I will repeat, it has never ever relieved her from her role as the caretaker. She is always expected to do both, whereas there are cases when a man at times does none.
The gender norms or the gender roles have been deep rooted and internalized within the society. Women fail to see this as a problem because this is what they have been doing over the ages and this is what they have been taught.
So there was a time when sati was considered to be an ideal path for a widow, and that is morally wrong. That is a great example of a blinded society that just follows whatever's been going on for a while. And now I think every time we make a decision, we'll have to think if we're repeating mistakes from the past and almost like following the same path.
We have to actively look for a different setup, a reorganization of pay structures, corporate structures, childcare facilities. There are so many aspects to this problem, but it will all begin once we collectively as a generation accept that yes, there is a problem, it exists, and it has to be addressed.
I'm working by 7 an hour or so, then get breakfast for me husband. After work he will go. I'll see to the kids, get them watered and fed. Then back to the forge once I've made some more bread. Oh, the life it is hard.